Hey, what's going on? Welcome along to episode 64 of the Strategy and Conversions podcast. I'm Jamie Michael Joseph, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Mark Tanner.
Hello, everyone.
Mark, we mentioned last week about doing this podcast all on Clarkson's farm.
We did.
So it's a bit different to the norm, where obviously we talk about a topic or something around business, around marketing, around mindset, all that kind of stuff, to then flip it and go, let's talk about a TV show. And I guess it is, well, what we'll kind of start off with saying, I think two things are really important here is that one, if there are listeners around the world and you have no idea what we're talking about, just listen along, because we're going to look at some of the kind of marketing and business lessons within the series. And for anyone especially in the UK, who knows what we're talking about, it doesn't matter if you love or hate Jeremy Clarkson. Right? We're gonna go through some stuff with this that is all about business, and I reckon we're probably going to say that kind of line a few times throughout this episode. It doesn't matter if you know
probably.
but he is that kind of thing. So what we're talking about is obviously on Amazon Prime. Recently, there has been the second series of Clarkson's Farm, and the first series must have been a good kind of year ago. So something like that. And you have Jeremy Clarkson, presenter of Top Gear, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and stuff like that. He's obviously made a ton of money throughout his career, right? Because he's got this beautiful farm in the Cotswolds, and he's just like, he's a farmer now. Is that pretty much how it is?
Yeah, I think so. Although it's interesting because he a lot of people tell him he's not a farmer. He has no idea, but I think he just. I would love to know. I would love to be on the fly of the wall when he started this, because I reckon somebody in Amazon maybe even said that what can you do that's really off the wall, something completely different, and I think someone must have jokingly said, "Why don't you buy a farm?" And knowing him as I kind of do, is kind of, I bet he will say, "That's a good idea. Let's see if we can do this." So it's so off the wall because he is a farmer in the sense that he drives a tractor and he loves it, but he's not really a farmer because if anybody's watched the series, Caleb is the one who tells him what to do, because Caleb is the real farmer, and of course Charlie, the accountant, who sorts him out as well quite a few times.
And mate, that's exactly it, isn't it? And I guess this is why we talk about there being so many business lessons within here, because he's jumped into it with both feet. Now, I don't know if he's had the farm for like a long time and it's just been an investment or something like that. Because I think that there is something where I think when the first episode came around, I think it was something like he's now living on the farm kind of thing, and maybe people looked after it or he rented it out or something. I don't know.
Okay.
And yeah, he's just obviously jumped in with it with both feet. And yes, you're probably right. It probably was a case of going Amazon saying, "Here's a shed load of money. You're now a farmer."
Yeah,
and him saying, "Yeah, all right," kind of thing. And I think as well, like obviously, whatever we talk about here, I think you have to take this with a pinch of salt.
Absolutely.
And kind of thing. And some of it is made for TV, and he's obviously been paid for this series as well. Even though he's spending money out and stuff like that, he's still being paid for it. And he obviously has money coming in from elsewhere, and stuff like that. Again, lots of different lessons and stuff like that, right? But let's just go back to the kind of that first series, and we'll give a run through of that first series where, like you said, he's got this farm, and he just decides that he's going to be a farmer. He gets people in to help him, or people were already kind of working on the farm, and he's just employed them. So
I think so,
Caleb and stuff like that. And Caleb is funny, right? Because he's just a farmer through and through, never left the area. Kind of thing, he doesn't know anything outside of farm.
Outside of Chipping Norton, no, he's never been outside of it.
That's it. So you got that there. So he knows his stuff, and there's a few characters in there as well who, are just stuck to that village and obviously know what's going on there. So obviously with Clarkson, I think what was it in the first series? He had sheep. So he had. The sheep's got out, and something else happened, and stuff like that. But by the end of the series, maybe this is a spoiler alert if you had never watched it or something like that. But by the end of the series, his accountant, I think he said Charlie, right? Is it Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. So his accountant basically says, you've made something like £100 for like the whole like year, right?
Or was it even that? I'm not even
It
sure
wasn't
it was
even that.
100 quid. I think it's,
Yeah.
I
So
think he worked out that he'd been he'd been working for 50p a month or something. So ridiculous. It was, but I tell you what was, I mean, this is the first thing, isn't it? That out of something that is, I know I will say one thing I think is really good about it. Out of something that was so off the wall and just done as a kind of I guess upon a kind of a joke in the first place, he has been very good at highlighting the plight of an industry that is being torn to shreds by various market
yeah,
forces, and governments and stuff. The one that he did on the first series was about how sheep farming is. If you want to make money out of anything, you don't go into sheep farming
mm,
because I don't know what it's like in Australia, for example, where they sell the fleeces of sheep. But I know that in this country, he was reckoning that Charlie was telling them that for each fleece he got from that sheep, he would get about 45p in profit. I think it was something absolutely ridiculous.
it's insane, isn't it? And that,
Yeah,
do you know, I mean, makes me think as well that I'll be honest, man, I was about to kind of wrap up and move on to the second series, but you're right. I mean, that first series, there were some great lessons in there because
yeah,
he does have lots of ways of earning an income from the
yeah,
farm. Right? Obviously, hard work and everything like that, but there's different grains and different things that have been planted, so he can obviously use that to his advantage. And then he's looking at ways to make more money, as a farmer, and that's where, the
yeah,
kind of lambing and the sheep's and that come into it. And then he builds a little shop and
yeah.
stuff like that. And all through this time, he's facing all different troubles with the locals.
Oh, yeah.
Because of him being a celebrity and having influence, people are going to this shop and they're blocking all roads and all this kind
No,
of thing. That
yeah,
doesn't stop even moving into,
no,
the second series and stuff like that. But that there, like you said, I mean, it is a case of going, wow, you think that whole series, he didn't really make any money
no,
from the actual farming. And like you said, that kind of industry, I mean, it is awful when you think about it that way. And then, obviously that first series wrapped up. I think, lots of people loved it. Like I said, if you love him or hate him, I think you still kind of look at that series and you kind of go like, okay, there's something. It's just something magical about that. It's just something nice that it's a farm and stuff like that. So then when series two came around, everyone was just like, yeah, okay, let's get that on and let's watch that. And straight away from the off, it was kind of going the whole kind of farming stuff. And I guess it's the UK and Brexit, leaving the EU and stuff like that. But
yeah,
now
yeah,
all these kind of grants and funds and stuff like that have dried up. So the farmers aren't getting these. So all of a sudden, he was making no money last year. He's going to make even less this year.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I have watched it all through, and I don't think they did a reckoning of how much he earns. Um, but yeah, and each week it just seemed to be more and more bureaucracy and red tape that was just stifling anything he wanted to do. I think that's a lot to do with him
Yeah.
because he's not exactly the easiest of blokes to get along with, I'm sure. Um, and he rubs a lot of people up the wrong way. But he would genuinely, I was quite impressed with the whole with series two because he really realized, I think, from series one how a career choice, if you like, of being a farmer is probably the worst career choice in the world at the moment. It's great for being out in the fields and for the mental health, although there's a massive amount of stress involved. So maybe it's not even good for mental health. For physical health, maybe. But he was just highlighting how one little or a couple of little decisions that don't seem to mean much to us because we're not in the farming industry can be absolutely decimating to the farming industry. When it comes to the avian flu and the chickens and stuff that he had, and then he went into cows and just the hassle you have with the cows of trying to, of inseminating them, and because he used artificial insemination for quite a few, and how expensive it all is. I mean, it was just phenomenal. He was buying, and this was another thing that I found interesting because Clarkson he does make any bones of the fact he has the money,
Yeah.
and he does have the money, but he was actually making the point that how many farmers can afford to do the things he can because they
Absolutely.
don't have the money. He was forking out 10 grand for a sort of set of fences for to get the cows in to try and artificially inseminate them. And not many farmers have got 10 grand anymore to just play out. And it was the money involved is just staggering, when it comes down to it.
Massively. I mean, mate, that's such a good point. I mean, how many times throughout that series is it a case of going, well, how much is that? Yeah, yeah, okay. I
Yeah,
need to chuck the money out. But like you said, a normal farmer, I mean, it would be a big consideration. They
huge.
would probably turn around and be like, okay, we're going to have to get rid of the cows, or something like that. And yeah, like you said, I think there is a good part of it where he does highlight it of different farmers and their struggles. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
like you said, things like different diseases and animals, and all of a
yeah.
sudden, your money's gone. there's
Money's gone. Yeah,
there's
yeah,
no coming back from that. It's just like your money's gone. That's
yeah.
absolutely it. But I think for me as well, like as much as this series, I would just say to anyone, like if you haven't watched it, go and watch it
You've
because
got to watch it. It's
it is
hilarious. It is funny.
it is a good program. Like I
Yeah,
said, love or hate him, you're gonna like it. As a
yeah,
whole, because it is just comical. But like we're talking about the whole kind of business and marketing and things like that. The different lessons from it. And for me, that kind of just from the offset of him going, I'm going to be a farmer. How many times have we kind of seen that and spoken with people where all of a sudden they've gone into business?
yeah,
No real background or anything like that in it. Just like this looks like a good idea, so
yeah,
we're going to
yeah.
go and do it.
Going to go and do it without even testing it out. And yeah, and that's so true. So yeah, I think that he realized very soon. I mean, first of all, there's the whole thing. He had to build a team around him. He didn't know what he was doing. Now, Caleb, who is a really really accomplished farmhand, he seems to be able to do anything he puts his mind to. Caleb's been invaluable to Joe, and of course he recognizes him. So he had Caleb because he knew he would completely flounder on his own. And then he knew he needed somebody, not just an accountant, but somebody who really knew his stuff inside and out. So that's why he got Charlie, the accountant. And then he got Gerald, the security guy,
Brilliant.
that no one understands. No one understands him. But again, he obviously has been around a long time. So he's building it. He's built that team around him. And this is a classic thing for people who start out in business. And he has the money, which so I would say that when you start in business and you have the cash you can invest, one of the biggest things you can start investing in is a team of experts around you. Because in most cases, if we go into different industries that we don't know, there's nothing wrong with going into it, diversifying your business into a sector you know nothing about, but recognize you don't know anything about it, and build a team around you. Say, right, I don't know anything. It's a bit like Andrew Carnegie back in the steel days. He knew nothing about steel, yet he built a team around him, and he still became a multi-millionaire in the steel business in the Great Depression. So I mean, because he knew that he had to build a team of experts around him, and that's what Clarkson's done. He's
That's
built a
just
brilliant
thinking
team around him.
that just thinking there as well. You got the Henry Ford kind
Yeah,
of thing with that as well. Is that there's that thing where he says he can answer any question about his car or his manufacturing or anything like that. And they said, well, how can you do that? He said, I could just bring the person in who
yeah,
deals with that stuff.
exactly. Yeah,
And it is
yeah,
it is that way. And that's exactly it. I think that's such a good point, like getting the right people around you, because even if he would have, even though he made that jump, and like you said, anyone could pivot, anyone could go into any industry. Absolutely, of course they can. I think what I was kind of meaning as well is that whole kind of thing that always gets me is that someone's an expert and it's like they've never
yeah,
done it before, that kind of thing. But like for him, he's jumped in with 2 feet. Now, like you said, he has the money there to get the right people. Otherwise, he would have made a lot of mistakes and everything, and probably lost a lot of money and all sorts. That goes without saying. But actually, in business, as people move through different levels, they can actually get to a decent sized business where they haven't had the right people around them or something like that.
yeah,
And it's important then to make that investment and actually
yeah,
bring in the right people to help you just either sustain, you obviously building, but sustaining at that level, and even then looking to elevate up to another level. Is that getting the right people around you when it comes to finance, it comes to sales and marketing, it comes into recruitment. it comes into all those kind of things within business. Is like getting those right people around you can not just save you a lot of money, but could save you a lot of headaches as well.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the classic one of the first series, wasn't it? Before we knew that, before we really got introduced to Caleb's, he went out and bought a Lamborghini tractor just because it was a Lambo. And in fact, it was massive. I mean, I've never seen such a beast in my life.
Yeah,
And he couldn't even get it into the barn. He couldn't. He had to leave it outside because he couldn't get under shelter. And I remember Caleb, the first, it was the line. I don't know what the exact line was, but when Caleb saw the thing for the first time, it's like, what in the have you
yeah.
bought that for?
And do you know what, man? I guess that brings us on to that second level. Second thing to talk about there as well is that having the right people around you, but also having the right kind of training and
Yeah,
skills and stuff like that. Because they say he's got this. I mean, Jeremy Clarkson, Top Gear. I mean, if you were to trust him driving a vehicle, like you would, right? Of course you would. He knows probably anything and everything, about cars. But you put him in this tractor, and he's like, "How do I make this happen?
yeah,
What button do I press here?" It's just
no
totally
idea.
different, and I think that's what happens a lot of times with people that they try to do things themselves.
Yeah,
They try to do everything themselves, and it's like going, I might be able to bluff my way through. I might be able to wing it, but actually, I've spent all this time, all this effort, all this stress to get something that is a inferior product. To if I just radioed through to someone and said, "Can you show me what buttons to press?"
show me what buttons to press. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I think when the instruction manual was all in Italian, I think that didn't help us. Yeah. This is. I mean, he obviously just. I mean, it's obviously done for. This is done for the TV as well. I
Yeah,
appreciate that, but he's just gone out and bought this ridiculous monster that he didn't need, that he didn't know how to use, didn't know anything about it at all, and 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 left everybody baffled as to why would he do that? But I guess that's for the TV, partly for the TV. But it did prove a point, isn't it? Is that sometimes, and I've seen this happen actually, where business owners go to something new and they build them, they get the most shiniest coach, or they get the most shiniest thing, the massive thing that's going to sort their business out, and actually left alone, it just drains them of cash, as this tractor did. It was just change. On the second series, they had his tires being changed, and again,
yeah,
they cost an absolute fortune, and he was doing it in the spring. And Caleb came in and said, "The hell are you doing it in the spring for? We got to get out in the fields. You should have been doing this in the winter." And it's just this, all along he's just he's blindly going ahead doing things that he thinks are the right things to do, and getting it wrong every time.
that's it, isn't it? Blindly going ahead and just doing things that may not necessarily be the things that need doing. But you're just like, okay, I could do that. I'll just go on and do it. When I was just thinking then, like, what that kind of shiny object syndrome.
Yeah,
I think what happens a lot there that I've seen with, I was going to say with businesses, but even just like with sole traders and people kind of just in that kind of, that first level of business is that they get caught up in all the hype of
mm.
the different kind of tools and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, SEO, yeah, I need to be higher up on Google.
Yeah,
Yeah, paid ads, I need to do that. What I need to be over here doing that. Yeah, okay, I need that, and I need this video, and I need this website, and I need all this stuff. And it's like they spend all this time getting things ready without ever getting a customer, without ever
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to get a customer, or doing the right things, doing the things that you need in the beginning to get the cash flow to obviously help you move through and stuff like that. And they're trying to get things perfect before they actually, just go and do it. When all
yeah,
that stuff there is irrelevant. You don't need it. You don't need the Lamborghini tractor. You could just have a normal tractor that would do the job.
yeah,
But some people will be like, oh yeah, I need this, I need that. And it's like, yeah, everything in marketing works. We've been
yeah,
through this before. Everything works. It's how you put it together. And it depends on the relevance of what stage you're at in business on how it works for you.
yeah. And one thing I think I'd like to add as well, because it's just so true of new businesses. When people create a new business or they start a new business and they're really excited about it, and they've taken this big move, they've left their job or whatever, and they've created this business. And that is the worst time, when they're really excited and really passionate, to go out and think about, right, what do I need? I need a tractor. You don't go and buy out the Lamborghini, this huge thing. You think, hang on a minute, I need a tractor, but let's be sensible.
Yeah,
Instead of being really excited about, I can buy this big shiny object because I've got the cash, as he did. Instead, what Caleb would have counselled him to do was actually just buy a normal tractor, even a second-hand tractor. You know, that will get the job done. You don't need that Lambo. Yeah, you can buy it as a little toy when things are going right, but don't do it straight away. And I think that's where a lot of people do fall down. They think that I need it. Like you said, I need a CRM. I need this. I need a website. And you think, no, no, no. Actually, when you start out, you just need to prove you've got a product that people want first before you do anything. Because until you do, and this is some stuff we've been talking about earlier, until you get that, you don't even know if you've got something that people are going to want to buy from you. And if
Mm.
people don't buy, you don't have a business.
I mean, how true is that though? You know,
Yeah,
you hear about businesses, you know, that go under and businesses that fail and stuff like that. And, you know, I think 9 times out of 10 it comes down to cash flow. And when you
yeah,
actually look at that and you bring it back, is that they didn't get enough customers through the door. You know, they
yeah,
didn't get enough people buying from them and stuff like that. Or they did that whole kind of feast the famine kind of stage where, you know, they do something to get some customers in. Okay, got the customers in now, finish with those customers. Okay, now I need to look at get some more customers. And before you know it, you're just like, you know, you live in that paycheck to the paycheck kind of stage instead of there being an actual system in place that supports
yeah,
you with that, you know. And I guess that comes on then as well to my kind of thinking of planning, you know, and kind of planning ahead. And again, look, there are different levels, there are different relevances to, you know, where you are right now, what kind of business you have. Someone like the reason we're going to get to plan is with Clarkson's farm, you know, with Jeremy Clarkson, there was no planning, you know,
no,
but he needed to plan.
yeah,
And so if you turn it on its head and you get someone who's just started out in business and they're trying to plan everything out and they're trying to
yeah, yeah,
put a business plan together and they're trying to do this and they're trying to do that and you go in, it's going to change so many times because you
yeah,
don't really know what it is that you're offering yet. You don't really know what it is that you want to be going forward with, you know.
yeah,
So I think just to take stock on that and go in again, there are different levels and different things are relevant to different levels. And mate, just a shameless plug. It's just like if you're there going, I get it, but I don't know what level I'm at, or I don't know what I'm trying to do. Just reach out to us. Let's have that conversation and let's look to kind of get you moving forward. But that
yeah.
part of Clarkson's farm on the first series, he's got this field and maybe it's barley. I'm not quite sure, right? But it's ready to what's the word? Where they're ready to take it out. They're kind of
They're ready to harvest. Yeah,
ready to
yeah,
harvest. That's it,
yeah,
right? So it gets to that point where they do all the check and it's got to be a certain temperature or a certain
yeah,
moistness
yeah.
or something like
Humidity and
that.
that. Yeah, yeah.
And they get to the point and they're just like, it's ready, let's go. And he's just like, Caleb's to Jeremy, he's just like, have you booked the
Oh,
whatever?
yeah. That's right.
So,
Yes.
is it a combine harvester? What is it? I don't know. Like what
Yeah.
is it? They've
And
got. He's like,
have you put the transport and all the rest of it? Have
yeah.
you put? And that's
And,
right. You haven't
he's
done
like,
any of it.
what do you mean? And he's like, well, we need this certain machinery or something. He's like, don't we have that? And he's like, no. And then he's got to try and phone around them. But because everyone else's fields are like ready to go at the same time, they're all busy. They're all booked
They're all
out.
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That
he
was
gets one
hilarious.
guy, you know, to come in to do it. And I guess he paid him a bit of money to do so. But it was
Mm.
just like, there was no planning, you know.
No planning at all. No idea. No
Yeah.
idea. And one thing that was and they will, and this is the other thing to go. So when you do plan, yeah, as you said, just be just be careful how much you plan because you can over plan and spend all your energy, especially when you're starting out to planning. And there'll be some things that come along that will knock you for six, and you have no idea. And I just remember the the field he had of rapeseed. I think in the first series it got attacked by a bug, which
Mm,
apparently the bug is protected or something. I can't remember something really really weird about it. But he couldn't destroy the bug. He couldn't put weed killer on because there was a special kind of bug that's got some kind of protection order on it, and it cleared the field. He had I don't know how many acres this field was a rapeseed, and it was all gone. He couldn't sell any of it because this bug had basically eaten through it, and that kind of thing. He obviously didn't plan, and he didn't talk to any experts about the possibility of what could happen. It was just planted, and he had no idea what was going to happen. But something like that comes out of the blue,
mm.
and you if you don't have any kind of contingency, and if you don't have this um, this kind of yeah, you're gonna face those obstacles, and that could have actually it could have flattened quite a lot of farmers. So there's this kind of thing that there are certain things when you do start planning for the unforeseen. There's going to be something that happens that you have no idea is going to happen. Obviously in farming, it's really
Mm.
open to the elements. And we saw the amount of rain this summer stops him working, and then we have a drought, and at the moment the weather patterns are changing all the time. So for farming, especially for farming, it's really precarious with the weather, and those are things that you can't really account for. So it's really, in this case, farming is a kind of a big extreme, isn't it, to plan? But you've
It
got
is.
to plan, and you've got to build in those kind of what if situations. You really need to do those.
I was just thinking, Emmett, like with farming, I mean, yeah, look, we rely on it so much, but
Yeah,
like those guys are like underpaid, and I guess it's the same thing where you look at teachers and nurses and stuff like this as well. It's like it's insane, isn't it, when you think about it that way, you know? But that whole kind of planning stage, like you said, I think farmers, I mean, that is tough. But again, looking at lessons from that, is that for one, and we'll come on to this in just a bit as well, but just imagine his whole farm was just the rapeseed oil, or that seed, the rapeseed.
rapeseed.
Then
Yeah,
yeah, then his whole farm could have been done in. There could have been no income.
oh,
So
yeah,
we're looking at different levels of different avenues of income, different streams and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that. I think we'll get onto that in a minute. But that stage of planning, yeah, look, we can't plan everything, but what we can do is be clever in what we do. So obviously in business, if again, look, different levels, there'd be in different things that are relevant to those people, but it could be a case of that when you get to a certain level, it's not just about you. So up until that level, you need to make sure you protect you, and that could be through health. That could be okay. Like, if do I need to pay money for private healthcare? So if something does happen, I can go and do this. Do I need different insurances and protections? So if this happens, I'm covered. And then once you get to a certain level, it could be okay. I need to put stuff in place then that if I can't do this, someone else can.
yeah,
If they're away, someone else can do it as well. And that business can still run. And then coming back down to that beginning as well, where you kind of go, and I'm going to say touch wood that we don't see anything ever like this again. But you just take the pandemic kind of thing. I mean, that knocked everyone for six. That is the bug in the rapeseed, right?
yeah,
That was just what overnight kind of thing. Business changed,
absolutely.
and people
Yeah,
had to adapt and obviously get through it. And then that brings me into those kind of revenue streams, because it's just like exactly that thing going back into the pandemic, or if you look at this with the farm, well, something happens and you have to get rid of that income stream, or it doesn't pay up or something like that. If you're just relying on that one thing, then there's no income.
yeah. You've got to diversify, and that again, and that shows it so truly, isn't it? With the first series, it was the sheep, and again, it was only one income stream. Well, not a very good one, but again, it was the sheep and the lambing, which never really there was just sheep feed was really expensive. Chickens being wiped out by the avian flu, and again, nowadays I know in this series he breaks on the point that chicken feed has gone up 4 times or something. It's ridiculous, staggering amounts. And then in this series, he doesn't have a very big herd of cows, and um, luckily he managed to avoid any of them having TB. But there
Mm,
was a lady who comes in and supplies milk. She's lost 60% of her herd
yeah.
of cattle because of TB. And that, if you've got a business, especially if you've got a young business, and you
Mm,
suddenly lose 60% of your business. But if you've got mature business, we're talking about the 5 levels of business. We talk about that in some of the things we're doing. If you've got a business that you think, right, I'm doing well now, it's going along well, and you suddenly lose 60% of your income in a matter of months. Whoa! If you haven't if you haven't diversified and put things in place, you have a severe uh, curtailing on your quality of life.
I think as well, like just on that, if you look at, yeah, okay, like things can happen where it wipes out your income, right? And that I think there's part as well where you had he had some sort of feed or some sort of grain or seed or something like that in his barn,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
that's right.
it was like it used to cost, say it was worth 60K.
Yeah,
All of a sudden it's worth quarter of a million
yeah,
because
that's
the
right. Yeah,
prices have gone up, and he's like, I'm going to need more security around here and stuff like that because it's
yeah,
crazy. And that brings me on I guess, looking at things of different streams, but also that protection is that I think what happens a lot in business, and again, I keep talking about different levels, but I think as you kind of move up and you start making more money, you start becoming accustomed to living on that money and using
yeah,
that money, right? And you've got a bit of money there, and you go and buy the Lamborghini tractor or whatever it is, right? You do that kind of thing, but you never take those steps to kind of go, right, okay, how do I move some of this money into an emergency fund? How do I move
yeah,
some of this into an investment fund? How do I move this into a contingency or
yeah,
whatever it is? Because the same that we've seen on the farm, we've actually seen it in the UK and probably around the world with other things as well, is prices have just shot up.
mm,
So,
yeah,
you can't go into a supermarket now and buy the same amount of groceries as you did last year for the same amount of money.
yeah. That's right.
It's
Yeah,
insane. Gas and electric and stuff like that is
yeah,
gone through. So
yeah,
if you're used to just getting a certain level, and you continue at that level, well, you've actually lost some of your
yeah,
income because of the cost of living.
yeah,
You're paying out more that way. So you have to move to make these contingencies. And I think it's the same for any kind of level of business, is that you need to then not just go, we're making this much profit, great, let's share this out. We kind of go, we're making this much profit, now we divvy this into different accounts and we share some amount here. Or once one account overflows, it goes into the next one and then into the next one, and that's what we take.
yeah. I think I did a webinar yesterday on cash flow, and this is changing the subject away from Clarkson's farm a bit. But it was talking about contingency, and it will start building when times are good, and you get a lot of cash in. That's the time you can build a contingency more quickly than you can that when times are lean. And the whole idea of building the contingency, I mean, especially when you got this feast and famine cycle, is that when you're in a feast cycle and you build that contingency well, you don't have the famine cycle because you can rely on your contingency to even out that. Yeah, there's still a famine from business maybe, but you can ride that storm. And I was saying that just start to live on 10% of your, so you get some cash in. Just say you're invoicing under, and each piece of work is £1,000 or say £1,000 easier for. So start putting away 10% of it. So instead of thinking, right, I've got £1,000 turnover and I put it towards my costs, say, right, okay, I've got 900 quid of turnover,
Mm.
because 100 quid has automatically gone into a contingency fund. And if you've got 10 invoices, a month of that, then you've got £1,000 you're mounting up in that contingency fund. So when times start to get a bit leaner, and you've had three or 4 months of good times, and you've built 4 or 5 grand in your contingency, then you can use that contingency however you want. But one of the ways you can use it is to say, right, okay, I'm going to have to draw back on that little contingency for the moment to make sure to even out this rough time I'm going through. But then you have to remember that in effect, imagine it as a loan. So you're loaning money from your contingency. So make sure when times are good again, you not only do you still take that extra 10% again, but you pay back what you took. So that contingency keeps building. And it doesn't take long for you to have a not quite cash rich necessarily, but pretty well off business that you can start to weather those storms. And because you've built this big fund, you can then start to think about, do I need a Lamborghini tractor, or do I need another Caleb?
Mm.
Or and you can use it however you want, but just make sure that you use it wisely, because that's you've invested it as cash, and yes, cash will disappear through inflation. So make sure that you use it and buy something that, if you're going to buy something with it, that is going to be something that an asset that's going to generate more cash. Now that could be staff, because they're an asset. It could, let's say, it could be a Caleb, or it could be a Lamborghini tractor, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, we said about doing this episode on Clarkson's farm, and I mean, to the listeners, I mean, the stuff that we've spoken about so far, it's not like we rehearsed it or come on to, like, we're going to go through this or anything. This has just all been, just free balling as
Yeah,
we usually do, But that there, mate, that you just talked about, I mean, look, that's gold. I mean, anyone should go back and listen to that again. That whole part, like you said, is that that feast to famine. So many people go through this,
Yeah,
where it is that kind of thing. And like I always kind of say that where we've got the kind of the top and the bottom, whatever we do in business, however we kind of look to bring in more customers or whatever it is that we do, is that we move the bottom up to that top and that becomes
yeah,
our new bottom, right? But before we can get to that, we do look at going, okay, how do we kind of stabilize where we are? And
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that there, man, I mean, that part that you said about where if you have that contingency pot and you've got some funds in there, you're never dropping down to that famine stage again because you can ride that out. I
yeah.
mean, how good is that to take that pressure off? Because how many people, I've done this myself. You've taken a job or something like that you shouldn't have taken. You shouldn't have taken that customer on, but you took them on because you're just like it's money.
Because of yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's just like that kind of thing where it's like you get to that level where you go all of a sudden, I don't need to take this person on. I'm not panicking, the pressure's off. I just need to keep on the plan, trust in the process, and it's going to obviously ride itself out.
yeah,
That right there is, I can't recommend that. Listen to that part again and putting that in place.
yeah. Peace of mind. It's just and again, and I was so the webinar started yesterday with talking to people. We said, what's your biggest, and not three, just what's your
Mm,
biggest stress point that keeps you that stresses you about finances? And nearly everyone, I think virtually everyone said cash. And some people are telling me they have sleepless nights
mm,
because of cash. And you think, well, and I know that's because business is hard. There's a lot of stuff that goes through your mind and stuff. But if cash is one of the things that's keeping you awake at night, just by thinking, right, what can I do about it? And sometimes, because I got an accountancy background, I'm familiar with. But sometimes we don't even realize that's what we could do because we don't even think about it. So it needs someone. Again, it's getting the right help to say.
mm.
It needs someone to say, look, take that £1,000 and just put £100 of it away, and live on £900 as opposed to £1,000 per invoice. Can you cover your costs? Yes. If you can do that, fine. And again, the other end of the spectrum is I've made this much as a net profit. If you're a sole trader, you think I've made this month I've made 3 grand, 4 grand net profit. I'm going to have a great holiday. Don't take 4 grand out of the business. Say, okay, I can be good. I can take two, but leave the other two there as a buffer. It's just being sensible, but it's very difficult when you've gone through a hard time in business and you've gone through 3 months of really lean, not taking much income. It's very easy, isn't it? When the fourth month comes along and you've got this big pot of cash, you think, "Oh, I deserve that now." Yeah, okay, you deserve enough of it, but you still got to make sure. Hang on, I don't want to go through that 3 months again. So
Yeah,
make sure that you keep enough behind and add that to your contingency. So you're working at it from both ends, and once you have that, it is the thing, isn't it, with businesses? The thing that kills business is cash. It's not lack of profit because you can have a business that looks really profitable on paper, but they have no cash. So they have all these debts. Maybe they need to service these people. They need to pay the staff. They need to pay, and they can't pay them. So
that's
they go
exactly it,
bust.
isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. And I guess we talk about this as being like the first level of business where we go, it is that creation stage. It's all about getting your next 10 clients, you
Yeah,
know, and it's like you need to hustle, you need to put in some work, you need to put in that effort to get the next 10 clients. Because those 10 clients, and you could be at a different level of business in this. I mean, you could be having a bad time or something like that, and you just go right back to level one and go, my next 10 clients, how am I getting them?
yeah,
Because that part there is going, we need clients in, because once we have those clients in, that pressure comes off. And like you
yeah,
said, if you actually follow those steps within that first level of going, my cash flow, okay, I'm going to start putting the contingency in place now.
hmm
Well, after 3 months, after 6 months, whatever it is, you've got 10 clients, maybe you've repeated that again. All of a sudden you have a bit of a business.
yeah,
You
yeah,
do have options. You have the choice to go, okay, look, am I going to work as hard as what I have been? Am I going to bring some people in then to support me? Am I going to offer something a bit different now? You
yeah,
have those options because you've been through that part of going, I've done the hustle and grind part. I've got proof of concept. I know this is right. Now I'm just going to go forward and move on to the next kind of level.
yeah. There's a really interesting lesson that I learned, and it wasn't that long ago, actually, about 4 months ago, I guess, reading his book. A guy called Mike Shreve, does the Peaceful Profits thing,
Yeah.
and he was saying that all business. First of all, you read it, you think, what? So all businesses that fail are designed to fail, and you
Mm,
think, come again? What does that mean? So, and you read it again. All businesses that have failed have been designed to fail. And he said, and he says that if you design your business to succeed, you will succeed. And part of it is the contingency. Part of it is not taking everything out. Part of it is making sure you've got products that people want. Part of it is making sure that as soon as I can, I'm going to build a team around me of experts in this area that know what they're talking about. And he said it, and he's basically making the point: if you put that plan, if you first of all plan to succeed, you will succeed because as steps go on, you can then start to put that plan in place and get those people you need. But as I said, a lot of the where the businesses plan to fail, the businesses that say, right, as soon as I've got a nice lot of cash, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy this and what he was saying that okay, that's great, but when the hard times come, they're the first ones that fail. And you think, oh, that's a bit of a lesson to learn, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
it does make a lot of sense. I mean,
Yeah,
how many people have you spoken with over the years where you can ask them basic questions about what they're planning to do and everything like that. They don't have an answer.
they don't have an
It's
answer.
just
That's
that they
right.
decided that this would be good to go into business, or they'd like doing what they're doing, or something like that. Well, there's bound to be people out there, and it's just that they've kind of taken that step. But as you say, yeah, there's no okay. Next 3 months, what are we looking to do?
Yeah, that's right.
It's nothing like that. It's just going, one day at a time. I'll see what comes in.
Mm.
I'll try and do something when I need to, or whatever it is. But yeah, it is mad. But thinking then as well when you were talking, and that whole kind of thing of getting the right people around you. And I'm not doing this to big myself up or anything like that. But I can remember about 2 years ago having a consultation with this small company, with really small, few people in there, and I think about 40 minutes through, one of them just turned around and said, "We've been trying to figure this out for 6 months." And so basically, whatever we went through, we sorted it out and we've got over something. And it's like it's been a challenge for them for 6 months.
Mm.
And you're just like, we could have spoke 6 months ago.
Yeah,
Like, what,
exactly.
why,
Yeah,
why have you been putting it off? Why have you
yeah,
been delaying? Why have you been trying to do everything yourself? And I'm saying that just from an example that's come to my mind, but it's anything and everything. We've spoken about this before. Like the car broke down. My mate knows a lot about cars. He's like, it's going to be one of these three things. But me knowing nothing about it, I'm like, it could be several things.
yeah, yeah,
It's like how much time we spoke about it as well, like what is inaction costing you and stuff like that. And it's
yeah,
just that inaction could be that by delaying actually getting the right support around you, what's
yeah,
going to happen. And that there, mate, I think we'll have to wrap this episode up soon. I think we aim to do about 40 minutes. I think we're coming up to that. I think we'll have to do a part two because there's so much that we haven't even spoke about. We haven't spoke about
yeah,
I think it's his wife, the shop, and him looking at
yeah, yeah.
that restaurant, and that whole kind of builders thing of like knocking up a restaurant in a weekend kind of thing as well. I mean, that's class. We need to go through that.
That was incredible.
But
Yeah,
what one thing I think, mate, to finish on with this one, we're talking about getting the right people around you. There was one part on this Clarkson's farm that for me, I was just like, this is exactly it. This is perfect, right? You got Jeremy, he's in his tractor, it's all kind of I can't remember what he's trying to do. He's trying to plant some sort of new grain or whatever, planting some sort of grain. And he's going along in his tractor and he's like, I can't see where
oh yeah, yeah,
what line I'm going in or whatever I'm doing. And Caleb goes, hang on, I've got a plan. And he basically makes these S sort of shapes, going up this field. Jeremy then gets into his tractor and he's like, this works. I can
yeah.
see it.
I
And
can see
it's
the
just
line.
it's that kind of thing. How many times have we spoke about there are different levels of sophistication? You
Yeah,
talk about in
yeah.
business, I talk about in marketing and stuff like that. And it's like you don't know what you don't know. And
Do you
it's
know,
many different levels there, right?
I've just written that down because of the point I was going to make about you don't know what you don't know, and this was classic in Clarkson's farm in the first series. He went to Charlie, and I don't know if he said exactly that, but he said, I don't know what I'm doing. And that came across that, Charlie Clarkson didn't know what he didn't know.
Mm,
And he was wise enough to think, I have no clue about this. I've got no clue about uh, accountancy and estate planning, all this kind of stuff. So he went to Charlie and basically said that, to summarize, I don't know what I don't know. Tell me what I don't know. Um, and Charlie was the expert. And that's that kind of thing. In a lot of cases in business, you're going to come across situations where you really don't know what you don't know, and that sounds like weird because
mm,
you're not even aware that you don't know about it at all. And a lot of people um, don't get the help I need, and sometimes you do need that. Like you said, this company that have been trying to fathom it out for 6 months. And they knew in this case they were aware they didn't know, but they still couldn't work it out.
mm.
In some cases, like I know in Caleb and even with Gerald, and people would come along and say, "Well, have you done this?"
Yeah,
And Clark said, "Well, I didn't know I had to." And Charlie would say, "Yeah, you've got to do that."
yeah,
Oh, because he didn't ask. He just went. Clarkson just went ahead, and I
yeah.
can't remember what it was, but
And
and Charlie is incredible. He seems to have a massive
yeah,
knowledge.
I was just thinking then when I said about wrapping it up, I was like, we haven't really touched on Charlie and how valuable he is, and
No,
just like
but
some of the stuff. And to me, like I think what's really important there is like you said that there's all this stuff about have you thought about doing this? Could you do that? But with Charlie, what I really like about him is he will look at the risk side of things, and he will say
yeah,
you can't do that or you shouldn't do that because X, Y, Z. Even so much when it comes into the whole kind of if you haven't watched the series, no spoilers, but is if he's gonna have to kill one of his cows, right? And is there, and he's like, I don't know what to do, and it's like these are the facts.
yeah,
It's either a pet and you're going to spend a lot of money, or you can recoup some of your cost. And it's like it's very factual, but it's like, look, if you do that, if you don't do this, you're actually going to spend more money, and that
yeah,
there to me is just that having the right people around you for that side
yeah,
is just invaluable.
yeah.
So
No,
I think
yeah.
part
We'll
two
wrap it.
because there's so much there. There's so many things. Yeah, so many stories. But just that part of when there are people who have been there and done it before, it's those little things. I always say about it. Everything works in marketing. That kind of thing. Everything works in marketing. It's when it's not working how it should. It's knowing what to do to make it work. That
Yeah,
right there is the thing. And that thing with Caleb, where he's like, right, okay, it's not working, what can we do to make this happen? And
yeah.
even I'm just already thinking about some stories there, just even with that with that vet and
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
cow giving birth and he's like go and get whatever tool it is, and
yeah,
it's knowing what tools to use at the right time and when to use it and all this. But there's so much stuff. But mate, let's wrap it up. We'll
yeah,
do
yeah,
part
yeah,
two and
yeah.
we'll run through those ones there. Yeah,
Yeah.
mate, I've said my bit. Is there anything you want to close off on this one with?
No, I just think, like you said, go and watch it. And if it doesn't matter whether you are not a Clarkson's fan. Believe me, it really doesn't matter whether you like him or hate him. Go and watch it because it's great to understand the pressures that farming are under. It's great to understand how people can work together and get around problems because there are severe problems in the second series.
Hey,
Um,
just that part as well. Just on people hating him to working with him, like that kind of stuff, man. Yeah,
yeah,
so many lessons there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely go and watch it.
go and watch it. That's how we'll just end it. Go and watch it, and we'll catch you
Yeah,
next time. We'll do part two. Mark,
yeah,
it's always been a
okay,
pleasure. I'll
yeah.
see you
Cheers.
there.
Good to be here.